This movie almost slipped under the radar for me, but I have been hearing so much buzz around it, especially by the Brazilian fans online, and it is causing quite a stir because it's been nominated for Best Picture at this year's Oscars, and I can see why. I finally went ahead and watched it, and I literally just finished watching it, and I'm back in my car from the theater. And by the end, you guys, I was kind of an emotional mess. I also know that the actress in this film is nominated for Best Actress in this year's Oscars, and I can also see why. She was phenomenal. This is phenomenal. Her performance is so restrained because she has to deal with something that is so completely awful, and I think really hard to imagine for any of us. Imagine having a family member taken out from your life completely and you never see them again. And one of the worst things about that is that the last time that you see this person is literally the last time and you don't even know it. We see the character, the wife of the former Congressman Rubens, and she has to deal with that. She has to go through life as if nothing has happened because she can't be too emotional in front of her children. She has 5 kids. She has to continue being the keeper of the household. She has to continue making sure that the kids go to school, making sure that they take care of the dog. And there is this incredible, powerful scene that happens in the ice cream shop where she takes the kids to the ice cream shop as like a nice little treat. And this happens after she finally hears the horrible, devastating news about her husband, which is, of course, this is when she finally knows that he has not only disappeared, but he's never coming back as well because he's been taken out. Filmmakers of the movie made the choice to not do the typical thing in showing us a flashback or a flash sideways of what has happened to Rubens. I think typically you would see in other films, and I think we could think of like past films that have done this, where they kind of show us a flashback scene of, oh, this is what could have happened. What if this is what happened to this person, and showing us those horrible, heinous crimes. But this movie doesn't do that, and I think that was a wise choice because whenever we see photos later on of Rubens, it really hit me. It struck. Anytime they showed photos of him and we see memories of him through the eyes of his children or his wife, it hit me really hard. Like, I'm getting a little teary-eyed now thinking about it because he was such a loving father and a loving husband, and then he just was pulled out from his family's life, and neither of them knew that that was going to be their last time seeing each other. So whenever they showed photos of him towards the end, it hit me. Like I had to kind of like look away a little bit because I couldn't believe, like, this is a man that they never got to see again. And I just thought that was horrible. I've been binging a bunch of scary movies that have been coming out lately, and I found this movie to be quite frightening as well because of the things that the family had to go through in this. Because the reason why Rubens is never seen again is because military men come into the home and take him away. And that's just really scary to think about, living in that time and living in that country where these people could just come into your home and you really can't do anything about it because of corruption. You know, they're not able to call the police because the police are corrupted. They can't really go to the papers because the military runs the newspapers and he kind of controls what gets put out there to the citizens. I thought that was the most frightening part about this film, besides the disappearance of this man. I love the way that this was filmed, and I thought it was a very well-made movie. In the beginning, we are introduced to this family, and it's very much established that we are in Brazil, and here's this family, man and wife and 5 kids, and it is very vibrant. And not only are the cars vibrant and the costume is vibrant, but also because of the liveliness and the loving nature of the family, that's how the camera kind of moves around. It's not a very still or stoic camera. Another standout to me about this was the sound design. There are certain scenes that are in an interrogation room, which is basically a torture prison, where we're hearing these horrible sounds We never get to see any actual torture. We do see like a little bit brief snippet of it, but it's never the focus of this. But we get to hear those sounds, those horrible sounds of the torture. We also get to hear the raindrops outside, because there's different days that pass by. She is held in the interrogation room and she doesn't even know how long she has been there. Like, the days are blending together, and I think the film does a good job of making us feel that kind of concern and just the anxiety, just like she's feeling as well. Now, because this story has to do with this former congressman disappearing, we do get a lot of shots of emptiness. A lot of the times the wife will be in the frame, but then there's like a huge space that is next to her, just showing us just how empty her life feels like now, because she no longer has her husband. Her partner is no longer there, and she really has to find a way to rebuild her life and find that strength again. And I think saying that she's such a pillar of strength is honestly an understatement, because she has to put up such like a really strong facade for her kids, because she still has to raise her kids and she has to take care of everything else. But even though she has to keep going and be really strong, you really get to see visually how alone she is and how she feels and the emptiness that she feels, because her husband was just taken away and she has no idea what happened to him. This movie is pretty long. I think it's 2 hours and 12 minutes. But I felt myself being very engrossed, because I was just falling for this family, seeing them together and being playful, and I loved the banter as well. And then of course when the disappearance happened, you are wondering, like, you're sitting there thinking what happened, and you're also going through the story with her as she is going through this mental and emotional torture of not knowing where the heck her husband is. So I think just having that kind of heightened emotion really keeps you engrossed, wanting to see what is going to happen next. And I think what also helps with that is the seamless editing. A couple of critiques that I have of this from my experience: there is a huge time jump, which I don't hate, because as I said, this movie is already long enough. But there is one thing that I would have really liked to see, because I think the movie is already so emotional, and I would have really liked to see the moment where Eunice tells her kids the truth about their father. There is a scene in here where some of the kids talk about that. When is it that they feel like they knew that they were never going to see him again? But because we spend so much time with Eunice and seeing her journey and how she's dealing with the disappearance and dealing with trying to raise her kids, I would have really liked to see that from her point of view, seeing her give that awful news and then also seeing the kids' reaction to that. Now, I admit I do not know very much at all about the history of this dictatorship in Brazil, so maybe this felt natural how it happened. But when the military men first come to the home and take away Rubens, I felt very confused as to why the family is not questioning this more. They're not questioning, why do I have to go with you? Who are you? Show me some ID. But this may be how it actually went down during this time. Another praise I have for this film is the acting. It felt very naturalistic. It is centered around this family, and they were very believable family, because there's a lot of banter, there's some sibling stuff in here. The acting never felt over the top. I think sometimes child actors can go either way, where they're just going over the top and being awful. With this group of kids in this movie, I believe that they were siblings. I thought they were very good, and I can't praise Fernanda enough. I think she is so good, and I can so see why she was nominated for an Oscar. Her performance was brutal, it was emotional, it was restrained. I know that this movie is a huge deal for Brazil, and I believe this is also the first time that a Brazilian made film is being nominated for Best Picture, and I am so excited about that. That reminds me when Parasite was nominated in the 2020 Oscars, and I think that was the first Korean film to get that nomination. I always think it's really great seeing these foreign films come into the fray, so that way we who are not from that country and who also don't know the history get to see just a life outside of ourselves and outside of our bubble. I think that is always important, and I think I always stand by this. I think that is the true power of movies. They are able to make us more empathetic. You know, so many of us are out there busy in our everyday lives. We just know what we know. We only know our struggles. We just don't always know what is going on all around the world. We don't always know everyone's story and everyone's history. So I do think movies like this are very, very important. But I'm so grateful and thankful that I finally got to watch this. I had a good experience with it. It is a movie that I think is pretty brutal and heavy, that it's one of those that I think is a one-time watch, so I don't really see myself watching it again. but not because I think it is a bad movie. It is not a bad movie. It's just I am a sensitive and emotional soul, so I probably can't do it again. That's why I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. If you like my content and you would like to see more, and if you have more recommendations for Brazilian made films, leave them down in the comments for me below, and I'll catch you guys next time.